State highway, the Ridge Highway, or Beartooth Highway.
All right, we're going to go ahead and start our Leeds, Town of Leeds Planning Commission, Wednesday, August 7th, 2013. We'll go ahead and do roll call.
Darrell Nelson.
Danielle Sterling.
Reed Braithwaite.
We'd like to also welcome Reed Braithwaite as our new Planning Commission chair. Or excuse me, would you like to take over the chair?
No.
Planning Commission member. We'll start with our invocation.
Bow our heads. Let us be thankful for this opportunity to conduct the town business. As trusted servants, we seek blessings on our deliberations and our efforts here today. We seek to represent fairly and well those who have given us this task and enable us to serve with respect for all. May these efforts be blessed with insight and guided by understanding and wisdom. We ask blessings on the thoughts and words that are within us. May our personal faith give us strength to act honestly and mindful in all matters before us. Let our hearts be humble, unselfish, and all our actions be done in good faith. In Jesus Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. All right, now we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we'd like to thank everyone that has come. Are there any declaration of abstentions or conflicts? None. We'll go ahead and do our consent agenda for tonight's agenda and the meeting minutes from May 15, 2013. Can I get a motion?
I got a question.
Okay.
What is a consent agenda?
Consent agenda is approving the agenda and the meeting minutes at the same time.
Because I never remember that from years ago. That must be a new thing.
I don't know.
Bad lawyers.
Yeah.
I make a motion that we approve tonight's agenda. Oh, and the minutes?
Uh-huh.
No, I got some minutes here. We reviewed the proposed, it says here, down about a little below half, on Chapter 6 of the parking requirements, that Planning Commission members reviewed proposed changes, and we'll review again at the next Planning Commission meeting. Did we hold that up until we got more members? Is that
We were trying to hold it up while we got 1 minute.
more representation?
Right.
Okay,
And I think the town council had decided that they didn't really need us to look at it anyway, so it kind of just dropped off the map.
on that,
The chapter 6.
parking requirements, okay. Then on the master road plan, did that go to the council?
It never has. We forwarded it to the
Yeah.
council, but they have not put it on their agenda as of this point.
I think after that meeting we had in Dover, we eliminated all that. And then decided what we're gonna do, very for long, I mean, it's a long way off.
Right.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve tonight's agenda and the meeting minutes of May 15, 2013.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, the consent agenda passed. Our announcements, again, we'd like to welcome Reed Braithwaite as our new planning commission member. We'll go to number 7, our public hearing for land use plan, chapter 17, commercial district. I'll go ahead and open up the public hearing, or no, I need to make a motion to open the public hearing for chapter 17, commercial district.
I'll second that.
I'll need one, if you'd like to motion to make.
I'll motion.
Okay.
Second motion.
All right, we'll go ahead and open our public hearing for Chapter 17 Commercial District. Anyone that would like to come and speak, please come to the microphone.
Should I just get a few intro on it?
Actually, I think since we opened it, we can.
Okay.
Unless you want to speak, you're welcome.
Well, or maybe just afterwards respond to questions, but I just, principally, there's really two main changes in that chapter 17. It's the impound yard, whether that should be added or not, and then the landscape standard. Those are the two main.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and, can I push pause? Okay. I'm pushing pause on the public hearing, and we're going to go ahead and turn some time over to Bob Nicholson to kind of give a little pretense of what the changes have been. Thank you.
I'll be brief, but I just thought I'd highlight two main changes that are proposed or considered in this chapter 17, which is the commercial district.
The proposed changes cannot be made in effect tonight because we advertised it prior to. So what you have to have the public hearing on is the way that it was advertised.
Right.
For chapter 17, just so everybody's aware of that.
Yeah.
But that was all.
So, and let me just again, so again, chapter 17 is a commercial zone. And the first change that's proposed, and I think you have the copy before you, the changes are in red. You have the same ordinance. It says automobile impound yard, provided that such yard does not exceed 20,000 square feet and that the yard is fully enclosed by a site obscuring 6 foot or in parentheses or higher if required by the town council, fence or wall, and also note special requirements in section 17.4 and 17.10 of this chapter. So I think one of the issues tonight is that in the best interest of the town to have impound yards as a permitted use or conditional use within Leeds commercial zone. That's issue number one. Then the second principal change was the addition of landscape requirements. Of course, and it's just in the commercial zone, but it would apply to all new development, or if there's a remodeling or expansion of existing development where there's an increase in the building's floor area by 50% or more. And that, the landscape standards, I'll just briefly mention. Let me just read it. So, it says landscape standards. Leeds Town encourages water-wise landscaping, which is referred to as xeriscaping. And the following landscape requirement is intended to promote town beautification and water conservation. The minimum landscape requirement consists of a landscape strip outside of the street right-of-way along the front of the property. The landscape strip shall have an average width of 10 feet, but no less than 6 feet at the narrowest point. The driveway area may be excluded from the landscape area calculation for the purpose of determining the minimum required landscape area. So again, this is along the street frontage, a depth of typically 10 feet, an average of 10 feet. Could be as narrow as 6 feet, but if it's narrower than someplace else, it'd be a little wider. Then 5.1, it says at least one half, 50% of the required landscape area shall be covered with live foliage consisting of shrubs, trees, or ground cover. Landscape area shall be provided with a permanent automatic irrigation system. Landscape area and irrigation system shall be maintained in good condition. So, just for clarification, if you think of a commercial business and it's got street frontage, 10 feet along the front, along the street area behind the sidewalk someplace, 10 foot wide typically is the landscape area. Then half of that area has to have some kind of live ground cover or live plant material. Certainly does not have to be grass. We probably discourage that, but that would be an option, I guess. But typically it's shrubs or trees. Then the next paragraph 5.2 says the landscape requirement applies to all new development within the commercial zone and the remodeling or expansion of existing development where there is an increase in the building's floor area by 50% or more. That's probably fairly clear. And then the landscape definitions, any combination of living plants such as trees, shrubs, ground covers, flowers, grass, or other plants that are generally not considered to be weeds or noxious plants, along with non-vegetative ground covers such as rock, stone, or bark chips. When the town council had a discussion on this some time ago, and they said they don't think bark chips would be a good ground cover, so we suggested that be eliminated. So you'd have vegetative material along with other ground covers such as rock or stone. And you'd probably eliminate the bark chip. So the landscape would be a new addition to the town requirements. And then the other change, there's a little tweaking on the fencing requirement under special provisions, 17.10.1. If you have it, we'll just read that quickly. All material and merchandise, except vehicles in running order, shall be stored in an enclosed building or within an enclosure surrounded by a side obscuring fence or wall of not less than 6 feet in height, and no material or merchandise shall be stored to a height of more than the height of the enclosing fence or wall. And there's a section that was proposed to be deleted, and then a new sentence would be, where commercial development abuts residential property, the commercial property developer shall provide a 6 foot tall solid masonry wall along the property line separating the commercial and residential properties. Within a front setback area along the public street, the wall shall not exceed 4 feet in height. So those are the main changes that are proposed. And maybe I'll just mention I prepared a brief little outline on some of the options, particularly when it comes to the auto impound yards. Council had quite a discussion on it, so let me just quickly cover that. An auto impound yard is one of the land uses that is typically difficult to find a suitable location for due to its aesthetic impact to surrounding property. Impound yards typically store wrecked or partially dismantled cars for various time periods, and therefore often present an unsightly appearance even when surrounded by a fence or wall. Impound yards are typically allowed in industrial or manufacturing zones, but may also be allowed in commercial zones with restrictions. I think the three options that seem to me, the obvious ones anyway, are one, limit impound yards to industrial zones. Right now, Leeds does not have an industrial or manufacturing zone, but there's the option of trying to create one and find an appropriate space. But an industrial zone typically has various land uses with outdoor storage of equipment and materials, and impound yards fit better with industrial uses than in commercial zones, which are often located along major streets and bordered by residential uses. Second option is to allow small scale, however that might be defined, maybe 10,000 square feet up to 20,000, somewhere in that range. Impound yard in a commercial zone, provided the facility is landscaped and the storage area is enclosed with a site obscuring fence or wall. The third option that I'd like to throw out is allow in a commercial zone as an accessory use to a car repair or car sales business. The impound yard would need to be limited in size, either the 10,000 or 20,000 square foot maximum, fenced and landscaped, and will be an accessory or incidental use to the primary use of either a car repair business or auto sales lot. A business license for the impound yard would only be issued after the principal business, i.e. car repair shop or car sales lot, has been approved and is in operation. So, I don't know, that's all I have unless you have questions.
So in doing in actually doing the public hearing, we're actually just hearing on what is in this at this point right now.
Right.
But then we can recommend anything that we find in here
Yeah.
also
I think
to the.
you're having a public hearing on these proposed changes or possible changes to the ordinance. After you take a public comment, then at some point, you would forward a recommendation to the town council, and it could be, approve it, not approve it, modify it. So I think you have the discretion to
Well,
modify
if it's
this.
not on the action item, can we not vote on it tonight?
I think the way your procedures, if it's not on an action item, then you're probably just taking public comment.
Okay, because I believe we've already, well, we'll go into the public hearing the next meeting, I suppose. All right, we'll go ahead and I'll ask for another motion to open the public hearing.
I so move.
Okay.
Second.
All right, we'll go ahead and open the land use plan, chapter 17, commercial district for a public hearing, and all that would like to speak, please come up to the microphone.
I think that all was probably me.
It's your turn.
Thanks.
I almost feel like a veteran now since I've already been here and talked about this before, so it really kind of seems sort of redundant to go over it again. Obviously, I'm the one that's trying to get the impound car lot. I do like the wordings that you've done on the 3 proposals because they would all work. Because there is a car lot going to go in there, so if it's a car lot and then with limited use as far as an impound lot, all those would work. So I'm good with all that. I do have some questions though on the landscaping, because the front of my property basically goes right up to the road, and any amount of property that is left over there is now in debate whether or not that's going to be part of the easement or not. So to go in and put 10 feet of landscaping across there is not going to be practical. And so I'm trying to think, how do we do that?
No, why wouldn't it be practical to landscape the front?
It's already asphalted all the way where the road goes. Are you familiar with the property?
Somewhat.
Okay. Basically, as the road goes by, you've got like maybe 18 feet there that's already kind of asphalted. And then you go up to the pylons. Then after that is a very nice decorative concrete pad that Quality Homes put in a long time ago. Now along both sides, where the office is, and all back through there, you bet. And there's plenty of land area which would comply as far as percentage-wise of the usable landscape. But across that front, I think it would be really difficult unless I made it planter boxes or something and stuck those out there. I don't know.
Actually, isn't that, isn't that kind of a drive-in parking? I mean, everybody just.
Exactly.
So actually, this thing says it excludes driveway area.
Gotcha.
So I don't know if that would be, well, it's a driveway area.
It has cement barriers.
Yeah, those pillars.
Along, yeah, so I don't know if that would be considered a driveway area. But I don't know any place in Leeds that has a 10-foot area in front of their commercial building.
That's one of my,
So,
Yeah.
to start requiring it now, I think that's, might be difficult to do.
Can I just comment briefly on that book? And I'm sorry if I interrupted much, but when you adopt a zoning regulation, they're not retroactive.
Yeah,
So this will only apply to new development coming forward. So the question is, some Leeds over the next 10, 20 years probably will have commercial development near your 2 exits or the new interchange, whatever happens. And so, I mean, if you think landscaping is important at some point, then, 10 years from now, they'll probably ask them, well, why didn't we adopt this 10 years ago?
Yeah, I understand what you're proposing. I'm just thinking in this specific situation, it seems kind of burdensome. We don't have park strips up and down Main Street. I mean, we've got a road, we've got gutter, and then we have the sidewalk, and all the commercial properties that do exist. I don't know of any that have a park strip.
And I think what I'll go ahead and do is, we'll finish you with your public hearing, and then afterwards we'll open it up with discussion on our aspect. So if you'd like to
No,
ask
that-
away your.
No, actually, that's all I really needed to,
I have a
wait,
question.
go ahead, Reed.
How big is your impound?
It's about 7,700. Initially, it was going to be about 12, but we had to cut off quite a bit of the property because of the foundation, the way the fill was in there, and it just wouldn't support the fencing, so we had to cut it quite a bit shorter.
And you're okay with the 6-foot fence requirement?
I hope so, because it's already built.
It has
Yes,
slats in it or something?
it's already done.
No, I haven't.
Yeah, you have been over there for a while.
I haven't.
But yes, it's already completely done, closed in. We've got the barbed wire along one half of it, and because of the foundation, we've got one pole that has to be re-supported in order to run the wire along the other side. But it's, for all intents and purposes, it's finished.
All right, do you have any other questions on the public hearing part of this particular thing?
No, ma'am.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
I have
My name's Alan Roberts. I do want to comment on the Chapter 17 changes. I'm supportive of language being changed, requiring landscaping. Now, I'm not going to give specifics on the footage. 10 feet doesn't seem unreasonable. I think it's important for us to establish and start looking at what we want commercial areas to look like in the future. As far as the language for including an impound lot, I'll keep it germane for what the public hearing is, and I'll reserve right to comment on Larry's specific application sometime in the future whenever it avails itself for public comment there. I think we need to be very cautious on, I'm not opposed to a use of storing vehicles for a short period of time. It does make more sense as it would be in an industrial zone. If the town is contemplating including that in a commercial zone, I think it's very important that it's not just part of a use that is permitted in a commercial zone without some type of conditions. Because every commercial property will be different. And if it's not placed with conditions, and the extent of those conditions, I don't know what those are at this time. But if it's not under conditional use, then you cannot deny it. When someone comes in on commercial property and wants to do that, the size of it is very important to keep it relatively small if you're going to include it in a commercial area. And when I say small, I'm leaning no larger than 10,000 square feet. You can place a lot of vehicles in that size of an area. And
In commercial or industrial? What did you?
in commercial. In industrial, if we had an industrial zone, the language would be different. It would make more, it would be reasonable, the language would be very different for a larger size. In a commercial zone, you'd be very cautious about the size that goes in. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, if we don't have anyone else that would like to comment, I'll have a motion to close the public hearing.
motion to close the hearing.
Second.
All right, motion carried. At this point, it didn't get put on as an action item, so for September's Town of Leeds Planning Commission, this public hearing will have to have as an action item so that we can vote on it. So we'll go ahead and continue on for our discussion items. I guess Lance, do you know how to say his name, Christy? Is it Hannick? Okay, Lance Hannick on new garage went ahead and canceled. The only staff reports I have is And Bob, can I bring the agriculture protection area zone as a staff report so that we can finish that, or does it have to be on a different agenda item?
Well, I think we can, it's not on for action, so I think you can bring it to the staff as a discussion item, I think.
Okay, at this point, it came across that, the agriculture protection area zone, that, oh, go ahead.
Wasn't Reed trying to make a point when we came off on?
No, I think we'll go ahead and we'll let you do your staff report with, or, we don't actually have it as a discussion item, but we can discuss.
Yeah, I think it's part of the public hearing process.
Okay, let's go ahead and do your discussion items first, and I'll backtrack. On the discussion items on the chapter 17.
Yeah, the things that I would comment on the three options that we have. We don't have an industrial zone. I don't see making this an industrial zone, because if Larry decides, we make this little lot an industrial zone, and it has its own permitted uses. We don't know what would be in there 10 years from now. You know, I don't know how long Larry would own this. We don't have any industrial ordinances, so I don't see option one as very feasible at this time. I do like option two. As it's written here, the landscape, I do want to encourage commercial business in Leeds. I think that's something that we need to do. I think the landscape ordinance probably needs to be reworked, just because we don't already have that in place. And if that was already in place and it was easy for commercial businesses to come to Leeds and say, okay, we have a park strip out there, we can, put some landscape in it. Here, we're creating the first park strip on Main Street. And it would be nice to have a park strip up and down all of Main Street. Me, personally, I mean, that would be nice, but I think we need to have some landscaping requirements, but I don't know if it's a park strip. That's all I'm saying. And so just from my point of view, I like option two the best. Option three is also another, I think would be okay. I need to look. I do think it needs to be under conditional uses. I'm not sure if we do three as an accessory use, I don't know if that's under conditional uses or not.
It could be, it could be that it's conditional use as an accessory use. The idea being that you would require the principal use to be a car repair shop or a car sales lot.
Yeah,
And then
but
this
so
is
we have that
accessory to
under
that.
permitted uses, not under conditional uses.
Right. But I mean, you could have then just the impound yard as a conditional use if provided it's accessory to one of those permitted uses, if that makes sense.
Well,
So that's the point of it.
yeah, I think that's not, I like two the best under this one, as far as I'm saying. But, the size, I don't know if we're gonna attract other automobile impound yards. I think keeping it to 10,000 square feet, sounds like that's permissible. And sounds like that would probably be a good condition place.
And also because we didn't have it as an action item, if you, in the next month, brainstorm some other scenarios with it, we can also discuss it and then actually have an action item for our September meeting too, so if there's some other scenarios that you can come up with that may include other facets to it, that would be an okay thing too.
Yeah, I have a few notes, somewhat with what Reed was talking about, with just looking at the businesses we have now. It'd be hard to get any irrigation, anything wanting to start growing something, or we could, or, you know, the automatic, irrigation system, if they put cactus out there, you know, by the time it was getting work again, it probably wouldn't work. Kind of like you ready for a story? Kind of like the lady that from New York that visited friends in Texas, and she saw a little cactus she liked and took it back to New York with her and put it in a window box, and boy, the cactus just thrived and thrived and thrived. And people asked her, how do you get Texas cactus to grow in New York? And she said, when I was in Texas, I subscribed to the El Paso newspaper. And when the El Paso newspaper said rain, I would water the cactus. So, but, you know, I mean, depending on what kind, you know, the automatic irrigation system, you know, of course, if they put in some stuff, it should be irrigated or it's gonna die, you know. But I don't know, I just have a few instances like that, or, you know, thoughts on that. Just mostly about the 10-foot strip, whereas in the case of Bilsby, where he was to put it alongside, because he does have that drive-in area. You can drive up to those pillars, and that's kind of a parking area.
Right.
In fact, it's just about full.
There's a pretty nice area along the right side between me and R&R, up to that fence, which is like about maybe 10, 12 feet or so. So that area across there would be okay. And right across where the office is going to be, that whole area will be a zero-scape run across there. So there's quite a bit of area. If you consider that the little office is only going to be like 385 feet, it's square feet, it's not really big.
You would never think of a pickup park, would you?
Say, get me? Heck,
A
no.
pickup park?
The regulations on those things are so stiff, you don't even want to even go there.
Good. It's when they have a bunch of junk cars out in the big lot, and they take their own tools.
Okay.
And you gotta be careful, because if they don't find what's in the lot, you're not attending your car and you're in the lot.
Oh. That's
Now,
not good.
the stipulations on wrecking yards and those kinds of things are extremely regulated, and frankly, they're detrimental to your community as far as I'm concerned.
I agree. So you're basically on the used cars, or the car sales and that.
Car sales and impound towing, that's it.
I just thought of that.
No, that's fine, thanks, Darrell.
Right, I think at this point what we'll do is if we can all go ahead.
I just have one more question. We draft the ordinance. Do we have anyone that enforces the ordinance?
No. At this point, I haven't seen that, but I think at this point what we can recommend is if we all go, because it's not on the action item, if there are other changes that you'd like to make, including the 10-foot width of the landscape strip, or I guess at this point we can take into consideration of what we've heard and come back next month, and maybe we can revise it and then either approve or disapprove and send it on, unless there's any other discussions come up.
Just a comment. First of all, again, you have to think that this is not necessarily, it's not retroactive, so it's not a matter of somebody's going to force existing businesses to rent.
I understand, unless they improve the
50%, yeah. So you have to think in terms of new development. You know, in St. George, we've had a landscape requirement for close to, I don't know, 28 years or so. Actually, prior to that, probably 35 years, but now they have just about all the commercial zones. Hasn't been that burdensome yet, and the landscape requirement is substantially greater than what's been proposed. Then there's all kinds of options. For example, with the 10-foot in the front, which probably is the most effective as far as the visual impact, you could insert language, something like town council may approve an alternate landscape location if the front of the property is not feasible to be landscaped. So, there could be some flexibility in there that if a person could say, well, just for whatever reason does not work, and say that I can do an alternate. So there's some,
Yeah.
That sounds good.
St. George has toyed with different wording on how they handled it. They finally found out, and through time have realized that landscaping up near the road visually is has the greatest positive impact. You can put it up next to the building, around the side, it just doesn't have the same impact if you have it behind the sidewalk someplace. So that's what and most cities actually do in their particular commercial zones require some degree of landscaping. It varies from town to town, but it does have a good aesthetic impact.
Yeah, I mean, in that area that we're talking about, I like the change,
I do too.
but I'm just saying for practicality purposes, in the area that's being proposed, there's not even a sidewalk there. I mean, I'd like to see, sidewalk, park strip, all up and down, I think that'd be nice. But I do like to would like to have some flexibility language, for some practicality test. So years down the road, we're making an effort. I think I take an example, and this just me personally again, but take Santa Clara. You can kind of take the landscape a little bit too far to where it's impractical now. With some of the changes they've made to beautify, to add some landscaping, but now it's really impractical to drive up and down that street. Take it back a scale would probably been a better choice, but St. George I think is doing a great job with their streets. I'd like to see something here, but again, I don't want to be too impractical on businesses, so they're like that. I have to put in, park strip and all this stuff, infrastructure that's just not there. That's just my comment.
Well, and again, if it's part of new development, a business is putting in water lines to the building, whether it's, whatever the business is that requires water. Part of that is established stuff to the front especially if you have a drip system, a minor drip system, then you're really not talking much water. You're talking, minimal, but just enough to keep that desert shrubbery alive.
I really like the avenue.
The discretion,
Yeah.
as you mentioned, this is hard and fast, and there's no outs.
Right.
With discretion.
Maybe what we can do is Reed, if you can, maybe you can draft something that you want to add into it, and then we can give it to Bob next meeting and see his perfection at work, if he puts it all together for us. So, do we have any other? All right. All right, we'll go ahead and go to staff reports. We found that, thanks to Christy, that she had found that the agricultural protection area zone that we had, I'm not quite sure exactly how long ago it was approved at the town council meeting, but Alan Roberts was gracious enough to look and found that we needed to have would you mind reading that for me? We need to have every person within 1,000 feet of the property line?
Verbatim, it runs, I can't read it verbatim. And it's going to be your legal counsel that you need to discuss with on how to move from this point. It follows very similar to any requirements for any type of land use change or zoning or an annexation, because it's dealing with land use issue. It's not a rezoning, but it is a zoning issue because it's recorded with the properties. So on state code 1741-302, it gives what requirements are there, and it's even a little more stringent on requirements for properties that are within 1,000 feet of the properties that are designated to be in part of that, in that agricultural protection zone. The language in there also talks about individuals who may be, let's say they're surrounded and they're an island in there. They have the opportunity to write an actual petition, or a statement that they may not want to be included in that. So,
Right.
so it can be quite drastic for the specific area that you're talking about. To my knowledge, all property owners within a reasonable amount of distance were in favor of that. So I'm not sure that would be an issue. But your legal counsel needs to advise you on how to proceed with that.
Okay, so I think at this point what we'll do is we will go ahead and contact legal tomorrow, and then Bob, will we have to have another public hearing to your?
Without looking back to the code, I wouldn't know offhand.
Okay. Do we have to approve of the public hearing tonight if we're going to do it, or is that something that we have to do, or can you?
You can schedule a public hearing, Danielle. You don't have to make a motion to have a
Okay.
public hearing.
Okay, so I think we'll go ahead and tentatively schedule the public hearing for the agricultural protection area, just so that we have our bases covered. And then we'll go ahead and contact, what's the gentleman's name that you recommended? I believe his name is David Church tomorrow, and see what we need to do so that we can expedite this, because it's been a while.
Yeah, and I read that law a bunch of times, and I can't, surprised that I missed it.
I read it too.
I picked up on that. We'll just have to go back and look at it. And
Okay.
David Church is the counsel to the utility cities and towns.
Who is the current town attorney, Mr. Church?
For our town?
Yeah,
Gary.
so he is no longer the town attorney at all.
He's still engaged.
He kind of got called.
But it's Gary that we're trying to turn this over.
Well, we may have to, if David Church can advise and do that, that'd be good, because he probably doesn't impose any cost to the city, I guess, right? I think that's free legal counsel, because it's free behind the utilities and towns.
Okay.
We just have to, I'll be glad to reread that section tomorrow, and we've got the email, or call Christie or whatever, and, 1,000 feet, the question is 1,000 feet, just a notice, a heads up to surrounding property owner that this is in process, or is it tied to notice of the public hearing? They may be totally separate. Because I thought we had a public hearing on it.
We did.
So, we'll just have to look and see if that, if we missed the public notice process, then we'll have to go back and start opening up. The one thing we don't, we have, it's been to the planning commission, and the planning commission felt comfortable. It has been referred to the county's agricultural board, and as I understand, I'm not sure what the response was, but I think they felt okay about it. There aren't very many, I think. I think maybe Hurricanes adopted it, perhaps some place in the county, but I'm not surprised that the county recorder was a little
Right.
uncertain what to do, because they don't, I think they've had any requests.
And at this point, I don't think we'd have to start completely over, because how it goes is the town council has to give it to the planning commission, and then of course the TICE, and then from there, it would probably have to start from that point. But anyway, I guess if you'd like to research it and get back with her, and then we can talk to legal, then we can move on. But if you can go ahead and schedule that for, with the, and I guess, would you also look in to see if it needs to be the public hearing at the town council level or the public hearing at the planning commission level?
Yeah, I will.
Okay. All right. Is there any other discussion items that we, staff report? All right, then I'll go ahead and ask for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll second that.
Motion carried.
All in
Thank you.
favor?
All in favor.